Hello everyone, this is Mike Linkenauger here with the Short Sale Specialist Network. Thank you for joining us for the training session on short sale packages and how to prepare them, and also how to prepare HUD-1 settlement statements. Joining me is Ethan Gregory.
Hi guys, this is Ethan Gregory, First Coast Realty. I'm the head processor here. Literally put together hundreds of short sale packets here for our company, as well as helping to advise people in the network on how to do them correctly.
Absolutely. Ethan's done well over 100 himself. I've done well over 100 short sale packages myself. So hopefully we can share a little bit of our experience with you. First, we're going to start. Ethan's going to go over what documents are basically required for a short sale package, the main list of documents there. Ethan, what's needed for a seller to provide and what's in a short sale package there?
I'm going to quickly go through a quick run through of basically the minimum you're going to want to submit a short sale packet. Each lender will sometimes have their own addendums or documents they require, but here are pretty much the basics. One is the hardship letter, which we provide you with some documents on the website that describe how to write a hardship letter. Last two, bank statements. That is, all accounts that they have, whether checking, savings, anything like that that the seller has.
And it is important too that the borrower keep, the lender will likely ask for updated bank statements by the time they approve the short sale package. So it's important for the homeowner to, just make sure their bank statement continues to stay in the same financial position that shows the hardship.
And also, their two most recent pay stubs, and that's if they are employed. If they are not employed, you need to have a short, quick statement saying we are not employed, receiving unemployment payments, or we're just not employed, we don't receive unemployment payments, signed and dated. If they do not have any pay stubs, that kind of solidifies with the bank that they actually are not employed. There's a financial worksheet you need to submit. We provide one, a general one, on our website. Sometimes a lender will have their own one they require. If that's the case, be sure to fill that one out for the seller. And
you can check in advance if you like, if they do. We actually have, as part of the preferred partnership program, we have a list of all the lender-specific short sale packages out there for you guys to use as well.
Yeah, we sure do on the website there, so check it out. The last year's W-2s or 1099s for the previous year. They want the last 2 years' bank statements. Tax returns, so the last 2 years' tax returns. And the mortgage statements, it's not as important to have the mortgage statements if it's only one lender, but if there are two lenders, you need to have both mortgage statements and go ahead and submit them to both to know what the situation is with the other one. Another important document is the authorization to release information, or the borrower's authorization. Some lenders call it the third-party authorization. And again, some lenders have their own forms. We provide a general one to you on the website. Make sure it states the lender's name, the loan number, the address, and it's signed and dated by the borrower, and it lists you or your company and your associates as people that are eligible to talk to the lender on their behalf regarding the short sale. The next thing would be the HUD, which we're going to go over in more detail in a little bit. Some people prefer a net sheet. We prefer to use a HUD. We're going to go over that in just a minute. A copy of the contract, obviously, with the short sale addendum. The listing agreement showing that you do have the right to act on behalf of the seller, and a copy of a BPO that you perform to show that the value you're submitting is a reasonable value.
And again, a BPO isn't, mandatory, but it is nice to have one if you can provide that for them. So you've got all these docs together for the seller, and again, check the site there. We also have this actual checklist on there we just discussed from top to bottom there as well for you guys to use when you're securing listings. So once you get all these docs together, you get the offer on the property, you get a HUD, which again we'll go over in a minute. The first step on them is to write the loan numbers on the top right corners of every single document you're going to send to the lender. Every single document you send should have the loan numbers on them. Also, be aware of any addendums that might be required, lender-specific addendums. A couple lenders in particular that always have like 4 addendums is Wells Fargo and ASC. Wells Fargo and ASC actually share the same loss mitigation department. Now, you're going to want to go ahead and get these addendums filled out in advance. Have them signed, by everybody, all the parties, if there are additional addendums. that way, as Ethan will tell you, the biggest thing that's going to delay, one of the biggest things that will delay a short sale is a lack of having proper documents and a lack of preparedness of the short sale package. So we're big believers in getting it right the first time.
Yeah, I can't harp on that enough. Submitting the packet complete the first time. We found that if the documents are missing or you just don't have all the documents to submit, it'll slow down that short sale, and when that negotiator or processor contacts you to get certain documents, it extends the timeline, like another week or so, because you have to hunt down the seller, get them from them, potentially have to get something else signed by the buyer. It's just going to take up your time. So if you have it all on the front end, get it correct and submit it, it's going to be saving you and your seller and the buyer a lot of time.
Absolutely. We actually discovered that if a short sale package is missing one document, any one of these items we just mentioned there, it typically delays the process by a week. By the time the lender notices and gets back to you and you get that document and you get it back into the possession of the negotiator, typically it's around a week. Now that's just one more week that the buyer has to potentially back out of the property and back out of the deal. We don't want to do this. You want to get these transactions closed as quickly as possible. So, once you get a package and once you submit a package together, it's just important to make sure you thoroughly review it. You have this checklist here, and you literally go down the checklist line by line.
And to touch on what Mike said regarding putting the loan number in the top corner of each document, that's very important so they don't lose your documents in the fax, because they receive hundreds of faxes a day, and they want to make sure they put all these with the same file number when they image them into their system. So make sure you definitely do that. It sounds tedious, but very important.
Absolutely, and when you're sending the package in as well, a lot of lenders will require a couple days before they can acknowledge that they've even received your package and received your documents. Now, you're going to see also on the Preferred Partners website there a list of different bank, phone, and fax numbers as well. Those are the main loss mitigation fax numbers. We try to update that on a regular basis as much as possible there to give you guys updated lender contact information there. So once you submit the short sale package to, you want to submit it to each party and wait 2 days, and likely a lot of times you're going to be submitting it again. So just be prepared for that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in future conferences. Now, probably one of the biggest mistakes that are made and oversights in a short sale file in a package is going to come in the preparation of a preliminary HUD-1 settlement statement. Now, some people like to use net proceeds sheets that are just general sheets that show the lenders what the closing costs are. We prefer HUD-1s because for a couple of reasons. First off, you can partner typically with a closing company or a title company or a closing attorney to prepare preliminary HUDs for you free of charge. Typically, they're more than happy to do this if you're going to close the transactions with them. A lot of closing attorneys or title companies will charge a little bit more for short sale transactions just because of this fact that they're going to prepare several preliminary HUD-1s. So you want to find a good title company to partner with or a closing attorney depending on your local practices. Now, once you get an offer, it's important to immediately submit it to your title company. And they should be aware of your practices and how you would want them to be prepared, these preliminary HUD-1s. Now, Ethan, let's just talk a little bit about some of the different variables that are going to change on the HUD-1 statement and what agents should be doing on them.
Well, some of the most important things that you're going to want to include in your HUD-1, make sure you note HOA dues that are due. The seller may or may not already be behind on them. If you can go ahead and order an estoppel letter from the management company, go ahead and do that. If not, just go ahead and find out from your seller how far behind you think they are. You need to estimate it, what that amount is, and then project out 3 to 6 months in advance of what that number will be when the file actually is able to close.
Absolutely. So Ethan's going through and he's telling you that anytime they prepare one of these, they need to do all prorations at least 3 months out. It's going to take some time for the lender to process the file and also, once it is approved, for the buyer to get financing and close and all that. So anything that you have as far as their taxes, their insurance, their association dues, all that stuff has to be prorated well in advance. And the reason why we do this, and it's very, very important to, if anything, when you're estimating any of this stuff, and the title company's estimating anything, because you never know when the exact closing date is going to be. God knows you never know when the lender is going to approve it, right? It's never good to tell a lender they will receive a certain amount of money and then tell them that they're going to receive even less. It's better, if anything, to overestimate something. So that's why it's very, very important not to leave anything off the HUD. It's ideal, if anything, to give lender a little more than what they approved as a payoff just because you overestimated. Sometimes, it's like pulling teeth, trying to get them to take less than what you previously promised them you would give them. A couple things Ethan mentioned too is the association dues. Now, in condominium dues, depending on where you're located in the country, we run into quite frequently in the Southeast where homeowners haven't paid condominium dues in a year or 2 years or more sometimes. So we could be talking about upwards of $5,000, $10,000 in condo dues many times that are back dues on the property. It's always safe with those too. If your title company, now some people like to have their title company pull an estoppel letter in advance. In other words, to go ahead right away before even doing a preliminary HUD, to go ahead, check with the managing association there, see how much is owed to date, and then add on an additional 3 or 4 months. That can be a good way right there. The only drawback with doing it that way is between the time when you get that original estoppel letter and the time when you're actually closing, the homeowners association may move forward with legal proceedings to put a lien on the property. They may have attorney's fees tacked on there. So what we really like to do is to get a general estimate of how long it's been since the person hasn't paid. This is easy math you guys can do. If the homeowner hasn't paid in 15 months, you can add up how much the dues are in 15 months and at least add another 50% onto that minimum. So if you think they owe, $2,500, might be said, you want to come in at $3,750 or 30, some odd number like that. Now again, these are just estimates. There's nothing wrong with giving estimates because if anything, you're going to be over a little bit. And again, giving a lender more than what they previously approved is always more favorable than giving them less than what they approved. So you want to prepare this well in advance. Now, if there some people like to do a title search well in advance also with the preliminary HUD. This is important just to find out if there are any other liens like tax liens, IRS liens, or of course association liens, construction liens, anything like that that might also be on the property that might need to be negotiated. Now typically, the first position lien holder is more than willing to offer some kind of compensation to get these other liens released. But again, there should not be surprises. There should never be surprises up the road on a short sale offer. That's why, again, get this right the first time. We got to practice. Practice makes perfect with these HUDs too. You're going to learn some little tactics as you go that are more applicable to your local laws and that sort of thing. So you want to make sure that the taxes are all included on there. If they haven't been paid for the previous year, obviously that has to be accounted for on there. So you definitely want to find that out as well. And a lot of this too, guys, you can gather from talking to the homeowner. They will know if they haven't paid their taxes or not. They will know if they have IRS stuff going on usually. It's not a surprise to most people. But again, some people like to get the title company to do a title search in advance and also do an estoppel on the association in advance. That's up to you. Our practices is really we usually don't ourselves in the Southeast here and in North Florida here, and we've been very lucky. We have not had any issues come up yet with surprise liens that we weren't expecting on the properties. We've been able to mitigate and negotiate things as well. Now, you want to make sure also that all the correct parties' names are on the HUD as well. This is going to include both of the lenders, if there's multiple lenders, all the lenders, the buyer, the seller, and the association, if there's a condo association receiving proceeds. Make sure all their correct names are on the HUD.
Yeah, and one thing, do not put owner of record on the seller's name. I've seen that on some contracts and on some HUDs. That's really, they will not accept that. They want to see the actual seller's name on there, or the borrower is how they're looking at it. And now moving forward, also the commission, probably the most important part you're going to look at. Do you want to include your commission fee in there, split it with the other buyer's agent, and make sure it is always listed on two separate lines. Even if you're the listing and selling agent, make sure it's two separate lines so they see that there are two separate people negotiating this and working with the transaction. They don't want to see that it's all going to one, because then they start cutting your commission pretty strongly.
Absolutely, guys. If you just heard that, we probably just saved you 1% of your commission, at least right there, on your deals. Because we've run into that multiple times, and had to have learned. Anytime you're preparing a preliminary HUD, even if, again, your brokerage company is getting both sides of the transaction, always show it split up on the HUD. Always show it split up on the HUD. Yeah, there's nothing wrong about that. It just shows and gives the impression that there are two agents on there. Whether, that's up to you how you look at some of that. But either way, if they see it as just one lump sum fee to a brokerage company, they're much more likely to negotiate that money.
And some of the HAFA guidelines that are going to affect may begin regulating that commission to a max of 6%. Some will regulate that. That's still to be seen coming forward with the HAFA guidelines. And also, to touch on the HAFA guidelines further, many homeowners can now receive up to $1,500 back for relocation expenses or to use towards some of the closing costs, such as outstanding closing costs that may not be anticipated. That is under a new HAFA program that the government is putting into effect as we speak. So that's something you can possibly look into and include those on the HUD. Put a $1,500 HAFA relocation fee. Make sure it's a line item on that HUD so the lender knows that you're trying to get that for the seller under the HAFA guidelines.
Absolutely, and if anything, you can get a little bit of money back for the seller towards relocation expenses. And what that money could also be used for, too, is in the event there is a junior lien holder and a second position lien holder there, and there's a dispute in the amount of money that they want to receive versus what the first lender wants to pay them, that $1,500 is just a little bit of extra negotiating money there as well.
And that $1,500, say the seller was able to receive it as cash and didn't have to go anywhere else, that money is kind of an incentive for the seller to help move this thing along. It provides an incentive because many times these sellers doing a short sale, you're going to realize, or you have realized, that they kind of mentally check out at some point and just don't care, some of them. And this gives them a little incentive to help out move the transaction along. And it gives them a little money to make it worth their while, I guess, as well. That's a way to put it to them if they're able to receive that fund.
Absolutely. That's a really good point, Ethan. And it's also not a bad idea, too, to use an agent, remind them along the way of the benefits of doing a short sale instead of letting it go to foreclosure or backing out of a bankruptcy. Now, some of the lenders, too, like Wachovia, for example, obviously programs change and that sort of thing, but I literally saw an approval letter the other day with $5,000 going to the seller at closing. So they're offering, one of their new programs is $2,500 to $5,000 to the seller because obviously Wachovia realizes the importance of getting a seller to, go through with the short sale of the property so everybody can cut their losses. Again, so make sure you have at least that $1,500 concession there on the preliminary HUD. If anything, like I said, it could be used for future negotiation purposes with the second. Now, again, as part of the HAFA program, which you can check on the site there, familiarize yourself with the HAFA program. That is going to be the law in 2010, 2011 right here, taking effect in April here. So it's just now starting up, and you really want to get familiarized with this program. There might be some changes to it, obviously, as it goes along. One of the big holes in it, it does say that the lender can't negotiate, the first position lender can't negotiate the commission. They can't negotiate broker's commission up to 6%. The problem with that is they only allow up to $3,000 to be paid from the first position lien holder to the second position lien holder, or up to 3% of the principal balance. In other words, on a $100,000 loan, they can never get more than $3,000 for the second position. That's not good. Many times the second position lien holders want more money than that. Well, so here we are stuck in a bind wanting to get a transaction approved. What do we have to negotiate with? Well, Unfortunately, sometimes we have money like the $1,500 there. We have a little bit of money left over from additional association dues that we might be able to use there. Or, unfortunately, sometimes we're stuck negotiating the broker's commission. Now, we'll get into that in more detail in another course as well, expert negotiations, about how to ensure that you get 6% on the transactions. Right now, we're going to talk a little bit more again about how to prepare a good HUD. So you have your second position lien holder here. What we've discovered is, you'll learn a little bit more as you go through these and get some experience and practice about what different lenders will and won't accept. Some lenders, without a doubt, they're going to want 10 cents on the dollar. Our experience is, depending on the values and that sort of thing, most lenders are happy, most second position lien holders are happy with getting 10 cents on the dollar for their loan. Many times it is less than that. Occasionally it's more, but it's probably approximately 75% of the transactions we run into, it is sufficient. So when you're submitting the package to the first lender, the first HUD you put on there, at least start with 10% of the second position loan balance there. If it's a small loan, like $15,000, you might want to try for 20%, like $3,000 right off the bat, just to get you started. But at least put in a good 10% there. Again, it's better to overestimate things, if anything. But you want to have 10% of the balance on there payable to the second position lien. Unfortunately, a lot of this you don't know until the file's been processed and you're actually in negotiations. Again, that's a whole nother session we have here. So we went over through this session. All the documents that are required for the short sale package here, what to get together from the homeowner, how to prepare it, and put a little bow on it and get it perfect, get it all the checklist gone, everything on there perfect. And then we talked about how to prepare a good HUD-1, and it is a science. It does take some practice, guys, but I feel we've definitely given some good tips and guidelines here to follow when preparing a HUD-1 settlement statement. And remember, too, these are preliminary HUD-1 settlement statements. They will change multiple times in this transaction. As you go through and negotiate some, your title company or closing attorney will be preparing another one as the lender says, well, we don't want to pay for this, we don't want to pay for that. And that will vary some depending on your state and local practices. Some lenders don't like, many don't like to pay surveys, period. There's some different costs that they typically don't pay, home warranties, things like that. And like I said, some of that will depend on your local practices. Either way, though, it's good to overestimate the first HUD that you get. And once you're negotiating later down the road, we're going to talk more about negotiations again. We'll talk about how to prepare them that are specific, but your title company will typically prepare several HUD-1 settlement statements for each transaction here. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for participating in the short sale packages and HUD-1 training session. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.